right, we were on the 7.08 lesson. We're on part 2 of the video, and we are going to finish reading in our textbook to page 415. Okay, 415. And we're on page 414. Violence at Haymarket. On May 1st, 1886, labor activists across the country staged massive strikes, speeches, and parades to demand an 8-hour workday. In all, some 350,000 American workers participated in this first ever observation of May Day, a labor holiday now observed around the world. In Chicago alone, some 40,000 people staged work stoppages. Meanwhile, the owners of the McCormick Reaper factory locked out 1,400 workers and replaced 300 of them with the other laborers that union members insultingly called scabs. This action led to 2 days of angry protests outside the factory gates. On May 3rd, union members tried to prevent the replacement laborers from reporting to work. In the chaos that followed, Chicago policemen opened fire, killing at least 4 strikers. The next day, despite a cold wind blowing off nearby Lake Michigan, a crowd of about 1,500 Chicago workers assembled at Chicago's Haymarket Square to protest the shooting. As the final speaker was concluding his remarks, a line of police officers converged on the audience. They demanded that the crowd disperse. The protesters were clearing the square when someone hurled a bomb at law enforcement officers. The explosive, which one newspaper reporter described as a miniature rocket, landed directly in the line of policemen with terrific force, shaking buildings on the street and creating havoc among the police. The police began shooting into the crowd. In all, 8 police and at least 7 civilians died that evening. Hundreds more lay wounded. The Haymarket riot convinced many people the country was on the verge of a revolution by anarchists, those who opposed any form of government. Americans had heard of violent acts by anarchists in European cities, and now they feared such violence had come to their own land. Many blamed organized labor for the violence at Haymarket. In a weekly journal sympathetic to workers, one worker lamented, "The bomb was a godsend to the enemies of the labor movement." Within 2 days of the bombing, police arrested hundreds of union activists. 8 local Chicago anarchists were charged with inciting the bombing. In the trial that followed, justice was displaced by nearly hysterical desire for vengeance. Though there was no concrete evidence linking the accused men to the bomb thrower, who was never caught, the jury found all 8 defendants guilty. 4 died on the gallows. Another died in prison. The American novelist William Dean Howells lamented, "This free republic has killed 5 men for their opinions." Although the Knights of Labor were not responsible for the bombing, law enforcement officers around the country used Haymarket as an excuse for breaking the Union. The police arrested leaders of the Knights and harassed their members. As the group's membership declined, employers felt more at liberty to fire union workers. By the late 1800s, organized labor once again stood on the brink of extinction. Okay, so we finished the reading for this lesson. Make sure you have your reading guide completed and using your lesson answer key to check your answers. And then the next thing we have to do is complete the putting it all together online activity and then complete the checkpoint. So let's do the putting it all together activity. By 1869, the idea of organizing workers took shape. Uriah Stevens and a small group of fellow garment workers formed what was originally a secret union known as the Knights of Labor. Later, another leader took over, eliminated the secrecy, and helped the union grow into the first large organization of its kind. Read the sentences about the Knights of Labor and use the answer choices in the word bank to fill in the blanks. Each pair of sentences explains something about one of the categories shown on each triangle. When all the triangles are correctly completed, you will see the logo and slogan of the Knights of Labor. As one of the founders and leaders of the Knights of Labor was who? A Philadelphia tailor. They just told us that in the big intro, Uriah Stevens. As the Knights of Labor grew in membership, a Scranton railroad machinist, mayor, and photographer named Who became the new leader. Check and see if it's Terrence Powderly. Let's check. Yes, good job. First triangle, leaders. The Knights of Labor wanted to unite all, regardless of race or gender. All what? All workers. Initially, the Knights of Labor wanted to achieve its objectives through what and peaceful what? Through boycotts and peaceful negotiations? Let's check. Hooray! Next triangle, mission. Key efforts revolved around securing a what workday, equal pay for equal work, and the end of what? So an 8-hour workday, equal pay for equal work, and the end of probably child labor. They also were in favor of public ownership of railroads and the establishment of worker-owned businesses and cooperatives. Check? Yes, correct. Next triangle, goals. Many workers joined the Knights of Labor, including blank, women and African Americans. By the mid-1880s, the Knights of Labor included over 700,000 workers. Check, good job. Next triangle, membership. The blank riot in 1886 involved not only strikers but also lumped in socialists and anarchists, and that riot was called, of course, the Haymarket Square riot. The 1886 upheaval turned the public into Union opponents. Whoops, get back there. Good job. Defining incidents is the last triangle. Then you put it all together, and there's the symbol of the Knights of Labor. And here's the information put together in a list fashion. Okay, going along, remember to take the checkpoint at the end of the 7.08 lesson, and then you can be completed with the 7.08 checkpoint. But before we move on, let's look at the 709 discussion. The 709 discussion is called Immigrant Backgrounds. Okay, immigration has played a significant role in shaping the United States. All of us who live in the United States are descendants of people who originated someplace other than the United States. What do you know about your family's immigrant experience? Do you know someone who is an immigrant or has family members that were once immigrants? And your question for the discussion is, describe what you know about your family's immigrant experience. If you cannot describe your family's immigrant experience, then describe the immigrant experience of someone that you know. So here's what you can do. There's a couple different options for this discussion. If you know anything about your family's immigration experience, yes, write that down. For example, if I were going to write about my family's immigrant experience, I'll say that I know my great-great-grandfather came from Germany. One of the stories was that he came over to escape having to join the army in Germany, and that he hid in a barrel on a ship to get out of Germany. That's a story that has been passed through our family. And my other ancestors were also from Germany. However, my great-great-grandmother on my dad's side was from Norway. Otherwise, I'm almost all German in my background. So that's what I would post if I were going to do this discussion board. However, perhaps you don't know much about your family's history, and that's fine. Then what I would like you to do is describe, if you know about somebody else's, go ahead. If you have a friend or relative, or a different relative, I guess, or your relatives probably have the same experience, but a friend or something, if you know about their immigrant experience, or else what you can do is read ahead to in the textbook and read about what a typical immigrant experience would be like in the late 1800s. Okay, let me quick check what those page numbers would be. That would be starting in around 525. This is actually in the 7.11 lesson, but if you look at page 524, 525, it's where it talks about immigration during the latter part of the 1900s. No, excuse me, not 1900s, 1800s and the late 1800s and early 1900s, and talks about where those new immigrants were coming from, the reasons they were coming, and their different experiences. So make sure that you refer to that if you're going to just describe what a typical immigration experience would be like during this time in history. Remember, this is not like it was in Unit 4. This is going to be a little different because now we're talking about the later part of the 1800s. The Statue of Liberty has now been built, and the experiences and where they're coming from has changed somewhat from the earlier part of the 1800s. Okay, so that is the 7.08 lesson and the information about the 7.09 discussion. The next lesson you'll be completing is 7.10, Seeking a Better Way. Good luck!